Dusk was busy again this morning, trying to keep up with the lunch rush. If she wasn't getting one person their breakfast, she was getting another person of their morning cup of coffee of inspiration. She had hoped that the rush was going to be over last week, but it seemed that people wanted to eat out one more time before Thanksgiving. Thank goodness she was on her last day, before having to stretch a free days off for the holiday. It's so much busier than a normal day, Jack remarked to Dusk. You're telling me, Dusk sarcastically replied, as she poured her a cup of coffee, with it simultaneously cooking one of Jack's famous ham and garden veggie omelets. It's usually the week of Thanksgiving, it's so much quieter, Jack remarked. I suppose it's a nice day out today, so people must want to go out and about before Mother Nature brings us into a deep freeze. Thorn and Luna had not yet arrived either, leading Dusk to wonder if they were also having a busy day at work. She immediately pushed this thought out of her mind when she saw a man come in through the front door. Jack looked overwhelmed at serving a family of 5, so Dusk rushed over to take the man's order. Hi there, I'll take my morning cup of Jack, the man said. Huh? Dusk asked, confused at what the man meant. Sorry, we don't serve alcohol here. Sorry, I should have said I'll take a coffee. Jack's coffee's my favorite. I always joke with them that I don't drink a cup of Joe. I just drink a cup of Jack, the man laughed. Well, that's quirky, Dusk replied, not knowing what else to say. All right, a cup of Jack, coming right up. That admittedly wasn't going ever through something she would say in this job, which supposed that there was a first time for everything. She was running to get the coffee. Dusk remembered she admittedly forgot to ask the man if he took his cup of Jack with cream or sugar. She supposed that she'd bring it out just in case. All right, here's your cup of Jack, Dusk said. Do you take it with cream and sugar? Just the sugar, thanks, the man smiled as he took the coffee and the sugar packet from Dusk. Have a great day. You too, Dusk waved. At that moment, she saw Thorn and Luna come in. Dusk thought she remembered them bringing their lunch, so she headed over just to make sure. Hey, late day at work? Dusk asked. I didn't, but Luna's dad needed a little extra help today, so she worked an extra 10 minutes, Thorn explained. I certainly know how that feels. I've been so busy here today, Dusk remarked. I'm either cooking eggs, making sandwiches, or get a cup of Joe. Jack and I are sure guessing everyone wants to get out and about before Thanksgiving. I can't believe I'll be leaving for my grandparents in 2 days, Luna remarked. My dad just told me we're hosting a Thanksgiving at our house this year, Thorn shared. Yeah, we're hosting too, Dusk somberly said. She admittedly dreaded the idea of hanging out with her parents, as she'd surely be critical of the fact that she's moved in forward with her music career since the last time she had seen them at the album release party. You certainly don't sound too happy about it, a familiar voice said. She thought it came from Luna and Thorn, but promptly realized it was Dawn. Hey Dawn, what are you doing here? Don't you have work? Dusk questioned. I had the day off because I have to work at the book signing event for Black Friday. I was bored, so I thought I'd stop over here for lunch, Dawn said. It's great to have you here. Dusk rushed over to stand by the door to get Dawn a menu. Once she acquired one, she walked back over to the girls and handed Dawn one. Dawn glanced at the menu. I'll try the roast beef on rye. All right, I'll go make that for you, Dusk said, hurrying to the kitchen. To her surprise, Dawn followed her to the kitchen. Without asking if it was okay, Dusk didn't care if Dawn followed her back. She wasn't sure if Jack would be offended by somebody who didn't work here sitting in the kitchen. Dusk began making Dawn's sandwich by pulling some roast beef, cheese, and bread from the fridge. She made 2 sandwiches, one for herself and one for Dawn to match. I imagine you must get very boring slapping sandwiches all together all morning, Dawn commented. It was an odd remark, but Dusk presumed that perhaps she was just trying to see if Dusk could relate to her crappy work situation. Bored? Oh God, no. I'm constantly making all sorts of different meals, so there's no time to be bored, Dusk laughed, as she took the mayo out of the fridge and put it on the sandwich. Oh, no mayo, Dawn informed. All right, then here you are, Dusk said, putting the sandwich on a teal plate and handing it a plate to Dawn. So, Do you want to walk around after lunch? Dawn asked, taking a bite out of her sandwich as she walked back towards the girls' booth. Fawn and Luna would be welcome to come too. Sure, Dusk agreed. There was a bit of a lull in the conversation, so Dusk brought up another subject. Do you have any plans for Thanksgiving? No, Dawn admitted. My family doesn't really do much for Thanksgiving. We just have a really big meal at home with my aunt and uncle, and don't invite the rest of the family. Besides, like I've said, I've got to work on Friday. We've got a book signing Black Friday at the bookstore, so they would want me to put a half day in the afternoon. A big meal is still something, I guess. Dusk tried to make herself feel better. Yeah, I guess so, Dawn shrugged as she sat down in the booth. Hey, so Dusk and I are gonna go for a walk after lunch. Want to join us? Fawn looked over, a tad conflicted at first, but eventually agreed. Sure, why not? Okay, sounds good. Luna admittedly sounded a bit less enthusiastic in her response, but she knew that Fawn and Luna didn't love Dawn's personality, and Luna was somebody who wore her heart on a sleeve, so she wasn't practically shocked by Luna's response. The four girls were pretty quiet as they gobbled down their lunch, so Dusk presumed that they must have all been very hungry. Dusk certainly knew what it was. The long morning of hustling and bustling around was more than enough exercise to work up an appetite. So, Dusk tells me you sit here and you talk about music after work? Dawn broke the silence, just as she finished her sandwich. Yeah, usually when we have stuff to talk about, Fawn replied. We haven't really chatted about anything lately. What about your music video? Dusk tells me you got something big coming up with that, Dawn said. Fawn shot Dusk a sassy look, causing Dusk to immediately tense up. Well, we're working on it, Fawn curtly replied, mostly dodging Dawn's question. I was telling Dusty every day that you should make sure that something's really wild and edgy. People love drama, so it'd be so cool if you made it controversial as possible, Dawn replied. The music video might be controversial for some, but we're not going to exaggerate the drama just for attention, Luna answered honestly. Well, to each of her own, but if you ask me, you've got the perfect opportunity to really milk the drama in the video, Dawn advised. We'll keep that in mind, Fawn replied. Dusk didn't know if Dawn would pick up on it, but knowing Fawn's personality, the remark had a hint of passive aggressiveness hidden under it. How is your music video going? Luna asked, changing the subject. Really, thanks for asking, Dawn exclaimed. It's going really well. I haven't shared yet with the songwriting group, but I've decided that I'm going to make a breakup album. That's really exciting, Dusk replied. Thanks, it's called Bon Voyage and Don't Forget to Cry, Dawn said as she finished the last bite of her sandwich. Are you girls ready to walk? Fawn looked at she was holding back an oncoming cringe. Sure. Yep, all set, Luna confirmed. As she got up and threw the plastic bag that contained her sandwich in the trash, Fawn promptly did the same as Dusk took hers and Dawn's plates, headed towards the kitchen. Once she did so, all four girls walked towards the front door. See you later, Jack. Have a great day, Dusk well wished. You too, girls, Jack smiled. So, Dawn, are you thinking about singing with the label at some point? Luna asked. Well, we should have thought about this before now, but we could get you connected with our manager if you're looking to be discovered, Dusk stated. Well, this is a top secret. About a month ago, I met with label Accept, Dawn revealed. Kelsey's first cousin is doing an internship at the record label, and she's trying to teach me the secrets of the trade and get the managers excited enough to sign somebody. So, I'm taking all those into account as I'm writing the album. In fact, it's what inspired me to write the album. According to their labels, there are always people who are prepared to have a full body work finished. They'll never sign anybody who doesn't have a full album ready to go. Thankfully, I got 8 songs written, so I think I just need maybe 2 or 3 more. I mean, it's possible to get connected with the manager without having a full album done. If you're well-talented enough, we did it, Dusk shared. Oh, wow. You must have done a really good job by convincing your manager. If you didn't come prepared, Dawn said. Fawn looked a bit annoyed with the way the remark was phrased. It appeared naturally. We knew somebody who connected us with the manager. He fell in love with our music when we played him a decent sampling of songs. Just goes to show that situations where you aren't required to have a full body of work done, Thorn rebuked. Well, I suppose that there's probably an occasional exception, but according to Kelsey's friend's cousin, label managers expect you to come with a full body of work completely prepared. That's why I want to be ready, Dawn counterargued. The girls made it a couple blocks down. They were just about to pass the park. Whoa, what the fuck? Dawn shouted, looking at the park. What happened? Luna gasped. At first, Dusk thought she was asking Dawn what happened, but Dusk quickly realized what Luna was looking at the same sight as Dawn. The spot at the center of the park was blocked off by numerous construction cones and tape. A construction worker was currently nailing down a sign that says, "Construction zone, do not enter." Dawn raced over to the blocked area, prompting for the rest of the girls to follow her. Hey, what the hell is going on? Why is this blocked off? Dawn frustratedly asked the construction worker. You must have not seen the news, the construction worker calmly replied. There's a pipeline going here. This park is being torn up for the pipeline. The whole park? I thought it was only part of it, Thorn questioned, until a much calmer voice than Dawn had. Well, it was originally going to be part of the park, until the company was responsible for the pipeline realized that they need a little more space for the pipeline than we thought. It'd be a hazard to have kids playing so close to the pipeline. So beginning today, this park is permanently closed. What? Dawn shrieked. This is outrage, Dusk agreed. They couldn't just say that they were only closing part of the park, then suddenly change their mind and decide to take away the whole park. Well, Dusk supposedly could, but the idea was infuriating, especially considering what they had seen in Auburn's park. Sorry, ladies, the construction worker sympathized. It's a shame this pretty park is being torn down, but that's a process, I guess. Thanks for explaining, Thorn said, as she walked away in frustration. I argued real progress is putting down a pipeline the ethical way, Luna muttered, as the girls all walked away. Where the hell are we all going to meet for our song group now? Dawn harumphed. I guess we'll have to find another place, Dusk sighed. I'll talk with Dayton and see what she thinks. We won't be having a meeting this Friday with the holiday, so that gives us time to figure out a new spot to meet. This is such a fucking travesty. Quite frankly, Dusk agreed. It was a very sneaky of them to suddenly demolish the whole park. Very little to notice a town like this. Her mind admittedly wondered if Mayor Corey had something to do with it, but she admittedly hoped it did not. If he was responsible for this, Dusk would lose some respect for him. The girls were each preparing off to their respective families and in homes for Thanksgiving. Thorn and Luna were in their bedrooms packing clothes. Dusk didn't even have to worry about the task. Luna would leave tomorrow to travel to her grandparents and return Sunday. Thorn's dad would pick her up today, where she would also have to stay till Saturday. Dusk only planned to stay with her family during the day tomorrow, and it was it. Her family didn't have much accommodations for her to sleep. Given that two of Dusk's sisters still lived at home, and it was only a 3-bedroom house, even if they did have the accommodations for her, Dusk immediately wouldn't want to stay longer. Being subjected to all the different questions were about working with how her music was coming was going to be more than enough for Dusk as it was. See you later, sisters, Thorn playfully said goodbye to her roommates. Have a great Thanksgiving, Luna exclaimed. Bye, Dusk chimed in. I've still got a little more to pack, Luna informed, so she returned to her room. How are you feeling about tomorrow? Fine, I guess, Dusk muttered. Quite frankly, she hated talking about her parents, as she didn't like being pitied. It was a pretty shitty situation she was in with her parents, being so judgmental and unsupportive, but it's not like there was much she could do about it. Having people pity her was the admission of weakness. Are you sure? You don't sound fine, Luna said, her voice very sympathetic and concerned. I don't know if I'll ever be in the space where I'm fine. About my dad not respecting my choice of career, especially considering he seems to have believed that he should be the ones working his only purpose in life, Dusk admitted. I'm doing the best I can with it. I'm glad. Just please take care of yourself. Your dad's opinions won't define who you are, Luna reinforced. Thanks, Dusk smiled, even though her reaction was not overly enthusiastic, as she generally appreciated how support and attractive and sympathetic Luna has always been to her. Dusk immediately felt it a bit odd to have Luna leave the apartment. The three girls were so insperably were like sisters, so it felt like it was a big empty space without Thorn there. Luna and Dusk spent the night together watching a TV rerun of their favorite Tim Burton movies, The Nightmare Before Christmas, which they have both thoroughly enjoyed. The next morning, Luna had woken up around 6 a.m. so she could be ready to head out the door early. Her parents were picking her up at 8 a.m. sharp. Dusk's parents were having the Thanksgiving meal at noon, so she figured she'd sleep in a bit and have more luxuriant morning. When she woke up at 9:30, Luna had already left an hour and a half ago. She had left a note to Dusk on the counter, wishing her a happy Thanksgiving, and that she hoped that everything went good as it could be with her parents. Dusk certainly hoped too, but she wasn't going to hold her breath too much. Wasn't getting her usual bowl of cereal for breakfast, she noticed that they were out of milk, and that the stores would be closed for Thanksgiving. She supposed that she would have to eat her cereal dry. She turned on the Macy's Thanksgiving parade on television, sat down on the couch as she chowed down her breakfast. The cereal was only subpar, but it wasn't awful. After showering and getting much ready for the morning at the luxury place, Dusk saw that it was already 11:30. She supposed it was time to head over to her grandparents' house. As much as she lamented going home to see her parents, she did enjoy the idea of being back in the house she grew up in. She would try and hold out, and that is if things got too frustrating with her family. Dusk pulled up to her parents' driveway, which was already packed with 4 cars in. It appeared that she was the last one there. Given this, Dusk chose to park the soccer mom van on the street. She remembered to pack the house whenever her parents previously hosted holidays, so she braced herself for a very chaotic environment. She decided to wear the Cure t-shirt, featuring a photo of Robert Smith holding a microphone. She wasn't really sure if the others would dress up for the occasion, and quite frankly she didn't care. She supposed that she'd soon find out only the classless bore who didn't have the decency to dress up. She rang the doorbell, which immediately made her envy in Thorn and Luna. Their parents embraced them with open arms, where they were overjoyed as their children came to visit. Whereas she was treated like a guest in her own home since she graduated from high school. "Hi, Mom," Dusk greeted as her mom answered the door. "Happy Thanksgiving, honey," her mother Debbie smiled, Wizard giving her a one-handed hug. "Happy Thanksgiving, Jane," her father Aaron doubtfully nodded. "Same to you, Dad. I see that everyone's here," Dusk noted. "Yes, there is still an open seat for you," Aaron promised. "What an honor," Dusk snarkily thought inside. She headed to the inside of the sea of faces. Grandma Martha and Grandpa Aaron Sr., Aunt Carmen and Uncle Nick, cousins Jason and Cole and Uncle Jake, as well as her 3 sisters, Taylor, Olivia, and Alyssa. Taylor was already out of the house and had a job, whereas Olivia and Alyssa still live at home. Taylor and Aunt Carmen were the grandparents dressed up, but the rest of them were usually their casual clothing, so Dusk was clear in there. Not that it mattered, though. They'd probably find many other things to judge her for. "Hi, everyone," Dusk greeted. "Happy Thanksgiving." "Oh, Jane, darling, it's so good to see you," Grandma Martha exclaimed. "Good to see you, too," Dusk smiled. She wasn't overly warm with her family members, as she found them expressive any level of care or interest in her life. Outside of these gatherings, she never saw or heard from these family members, and the few holidays a year she did see them, they would always ask her a few questions and then move on. Dusk sat at the table, which already had the food on it. Scanning the table, Dusk saw a large turkey, a bowl of mashed potatoes, stuffing, bread, mac and cheese, and cranberry sauce. It was a delectable looking feast, and Dusk couldn't wait to chow down. "Hey Dusk, how are things?" Taylor inquired. Taylor had extremely elegant demeanor about her, and Dusk always thought of her as Daddy's little angel. She was painfully mature at times, but at least she was pleasant enough, and she did have a tendency to be a bit aphrodisiac and barragus. "Oh, I've been well. Just working on some music and working at Jack's," Dusk reported. "Oh, well, that sounds lovely," Taylor replied. Her emphasis on the final word made it seem a little bit tired and sincere. If things get a little quiet for you right now, I'm sure in no time at all, you'll find your passion in pursuing something you've dreamed of. Her sister's statement seemed very phony, because Dusk knew that Taylor didn't give a shit about what Dusk was doing. Although Taylor would never say anything bad about anyone, Dusk knew that deep down Taylor thought of Alyssa then. As much as she loathed to, Dusk felt that it was polite to ask the same question in return. "How are things by you?" Dusk inquired. "Oh, they're just wonderful," Taylor exclaimed happily. "I got an announcement that blow everyone away, but I'll save it for dinner." "Sounds good," Dusk replied, sounding quite a bit distant due to running out of ships it's to give about Taylor's fake feeling Aurora, presage in class. "Happy Thanksgiving, Olivia. How's school going?" "Great, it's been bittersweet, with this being my last year and all," Olivia replied. Dusk paused for a moment, expecting her to ask how she was doing in return, but Olivia didn't say anything. She tried to give Olivia the benefit of the doubt, and perhaps that she heard what Dusk had just told Taylor, but admittedly would be on quite out of character for Olivia, not to care what anyone else says other than what herself was doing. "It's good to see you again, Alyssa." Dusk attempted to be polite. "How's school going?" "It's great. I'm getting all A's in my honor classes this year," Alyssa reported. "It's so cool that you're sticking to your music career, even though you haven't had any success in it so far." Dusk supposed that it was interpreted as a compliment, but her annoyed state, she did not take it as much. "I mean, yeah, it's been a little slow lately, but we did make a song up to number 26 on the popularly hit radio chart," Dusk shrugged. "Oh, I didn't realize that. That's neat," Alyssa complimented. It was nice to have a compliment for Dusk, but simply saying neat wasn't clearly as adequate amount of interest to show a family member, considering what was a big accomplishment it was. "Hey, Dusk," Jacelyn excitedly greeted. "It's nice to see you again." "It's nice to see you too, Jax." Dusk smiled, warmer than she ever had with any family member. She quite liked Jacelyn, who preferred the nickname Jax. Much to her parents' horror, she appeared to be moving towards the goth lifestyle as now she was 16. She wore all black and her hair was dyed back with green streak. She seemed to have looked up to Dusk and was the only person in her family whom Dusk got along very well. Her definition of well-meaning was going beyond mere pleasantries. She was also the only person to call Dusk by her preferred nickname, which earned Jacelyn a bonus points for automatically in her book. "So Jane, what have you been doing these days?" Grandpa Aaron Sr. asked. "She's been working at a local restaurant as a waitress," her father, Aaron interjected before Dusk could speak. "I've also been working on my music," Dusk said, knowing it would make her dad angry. She didn't care though, because it was bullshit as she seemed to be hiding that part of Dusk's job. Making music was at least a part of her professional identity, was as being a waitress as Jax was, in fact, arguably more. "That's nice to hear," Grandma Martha smiled. "What about you, Jacelyn?" And it immediately angered Dusk that they had moved on from her so quickly. Surely they could get a little less attention should be paid for her family members, asking one question that they felt like they didn't care about, especially when said question was the surface level as you could get. "Just busy with school," Jacelyn answered. "She's getting straight A's, I might add," Aunt Carmen proudly proclaimed, which was followed by everyone clapping. "What about you, Taylor?" Grandpa Aaron Sr. asked. "Give Grandpa an update." "Well, I'm so glad to share that I've been promoted to senior management in my company," Taylor exclaimed, which was immediately followed by clapping. Taylor worked for some small financial investment company, and she had been steadily climbing the ladder for a while now. Dusk was happy for her, but she didn't like how her parents placed Taylor's work as a pedestal, and they placed Dusk's passion in a rat-infested dumpster. "We're so proud of you, honey," Debbie exclaimed. Clapping and tearing up, Dusk thought that she was going to be sick. "Speaking of proud, we're so happy with Olivia and Alyssa," Aaron reported. "You want to tell them, girls?" "Sure," Alyssa chirped. "I'm getting all A's on my honors courses. And I'm off to Salem State next year to study business," Olivia chimed in. Oh, that's wonderful, girls, Grandpa Aaron Sr. complimented. Nobody mentioned yet that Dusk got no one, but 2 songs on the radio in the past few months, Jacelyn spoke off. Isn't it cool? Just I heard Earth, Wind, Fire, and Air on the radio the other day, Dusk. That's nice, dear, Grandma Martha smiled. I would find it much more cool if Jane were making a decent amount of money off of her friend's little innovator, but she's not, Dusk's dad sneered. Instead of going to college, she's wasting her time flipping burgers in some diner, hoping to be the next Madonna. Dad! Dusk yelled. She knew that this would piss her dad off, but she didn't really care, because now he pissed her off as well. It was humiliating having her passion being boiled down daydreaming about being some pop star wannabe. I don't even like Madonna, and I'm not flipping burgers. Jack's one of the most popular restaurants in town that we make good quality food there. Besides, I'm following my passion, not that you give a shit. Jane, no cursing at the table, Aaron scolded. There's a 9-year-old in here. Do you want him to be hearing that kind of language? Besides, darling, it's hardly the time or place to argue, Debbie chimed in. Your mother's right. Aaron shut the conversation down. Now let's just get back to the subject at hand. Cole, what have you been up to? Well, I've been talking about the solar system and science. I have been building a tree fort with my friend Matt, Cole exclaimed. Dusk didn't seem too surprised about this lackluster report. He was only 9, so she didn't expect him to have anything enlightening to say. I have received a promotion at work, Uncle Jake informed, and now I'm a head engineer in my factory. Everybody gave Jake a round of applause. Work's still been going good for me at the bank, Aaron informed. I'm going on my 25th year there in this January. Wonderful. Sounds like everybody's really thriving, which is what I like to hear. Grandpa Aaron Sr. smiled. Aw, you always forget about me, Pops, Uncle Nick joked. Grandpa and Uncle Nick had a bit of a playful banter going. Nick always liked to give him a hard time, but it was all in good fun. Perhaps Dusk could be more amused by it if she didn't feel completely unvalved by her own family members. I've been going all around running the farm. The kids have been saints and really have picked up their chores after school, which has left them pretty busy. We had our biggest crop yet this year. Some congratulating claps assured. Dusk didn't even bother joining this time, as she was feeling pretty low. She saw that Jacelyn was just finishing up her plate. Mom, may I be excused to walk outside? Jacelyn inquired. Sure, darling, Carmen agreed. Jacelyn glanced over at Dusk's plate and noticed that she was done as well. Want to join me, Dusk? At this point, Dusk felt extremely eager for some sort of escape from the frustrating environment, so she quickly jumped to the idea. Yeah, I would. Dusk and Jacelyn headed outside to walk around the block. The temperature was high in the 40s, making it considerably a nice day to walk outside. Being out in nature like this with one person in her family who she trusted felt so relaxing. It felt little and metaphorical breath of fresh air from her parents heckling at the lack of not caring for others. Thanks for suggesting this walk, Jax, Dusk exclaimed. This is nice. I figured you would want an exit strategy, Jacelyn replied. Man, they were railing on you for a hard time there. I remember them being critical of you of Easter when you decided not to go to college, but this was even worse. Dusk completely agreed with Jacelyn. There had been another uncomfortable holiday meal last Easter when all the relatives asked Dusk's her future plans when she graduated in 2 months, which she had to tell them that she was pursuing a music career. That didn't go over well. The family had seemed to decide that Dusk wasn't to be taken seriously, given this revolution. Similarly to today, the father had also tried to hide the fact that Dusk wanted to pursue a music career by saying that she was looking for work with writing music as a hobby. Yeah, Dusk sighed. I wish it could be different. But what do you expect with this family? I don't know if it's the whole family, Jacelyn cautiously said. My parents are nearly as dominating cold as yours, and neither is Uncle Jake or the grandparents. You're not wrong, but Dusk pondered a thought to articulate her thought process. Honestly, the empty pleasantries felt almost as bad as how my parents are acting. But in a different way, it's like they don't even care about my life at all. They're just pretending they do because that's what families are supposed to do. Look at the bright side, they do that for everybody. Buddy, they didn't ask about me beyond my grades, and it just bothers me so much too, Jacelyn informed. I know that it doesn't make it get right though. It was crazy for Dusk that a 16-year-old high school would be more emotionally mature than of her asshole relatives. One of the reasons Dusk felt so comfortably speaking her mind around Jacelyn is that she was the only person in the family who wasn't judgmental and actually listened. Yeah, you're right, Dusk nodded. If it helps, just try to remember it's not about me, Jacelyn advised. I feel that it's about me though, Dusk rebuked. With you guys, at least they talk about your accomplishments. With me, I've literally said one sentence about how I'm writing their music, and immediately they moved on. Fawn and Luna, those are my roommates, go on and on about how families they have, and how embracing families are of their music careers, and it pisses me off. Sounds like your roommates aren't great either, Jacelyn observed. No, they're great. Dusk realized that she had misspoken out of anger. She strongly debated about not saying what she was about to reveal next, but she felt like she had to be upfront for now. Now that Jacelyn didn't think Fawn and Luna were bad roommates, they just don't go on and on. I'm just jealous, Jacelyn guessed. Dusk paused for a moment and not say anything. She didn't want to admit to Jacelyn that she was completely right, but she appreciated Jacelyn's kindness and sympathy for as much as she didn't want to be an ass and not reply. Yeah, Dusk said, feeling the faintest hint of tear, welling up as she admitted it. I feel so jealous, it's just... Dusk felt really stupid now, all because her tears were going on a level where Jacelyn could only see was affecting her emotionally. She attempted to speak through her tear-induced sniffles. They've got such nice families here to support when they want to do, and all I get is the fucking dump is complete indifference, and on one end that says that disgusts me, I'm not even making me happy on the other. I don't expect a warm embrace for my alternative career path, but it's too much to ask for my family to at least accept it? Jacelyn looked quite shocked, but she was assuredly not more surprised than Dusk felt when tears began streaming down her face. Dusk rarely ever cried, so she felt extremely embarrassed for doing that in front of somebody like this, which only made her cry even harder from the emotions seemingly coming from all directions. It's not, but I think some of the hurt goes away if you're confident in yourself, or at least that's from what I've learned, Jacelyn said. My parents hate me for dyeing my hair and liking goth stuff, but I really don't care what they think. My happiness matters more than anything they do or say. I don't give a fuck of what my parents think about my career, Dusk emphasized. I'm not sad that they don't accept me to pursue my music. In fact, I'm angry. Anger is still caring. If you didn't care, you wouldn't feel so angry strongly, Jacelyn pointed out. Dusk even felt more bitter that somebody 2 years younger than her had seemingly mastered this life in lessons that she'd never been able to. She didn't want to admit it, both for self-protection and mechanism, and it's because she had tried to avoid crying harder. But she did care what her parents thought though. She cared a lot. She wouldn't even mind if her parents were merely indifferent of her choice of a career and left her alone. It was the idea that they were just always judging her for her passion that ate away at her. All she ever wanted was her parents to respect her. Yeah, Dusk whispered, wiping her tears away. That's my problem. I don't know how to not care about what my bozo parents think of me. I shouldn't be the one to talk, because I care a lot about what people think of me. But when I'm freaking out about kids making fun of me at school, my mom tells me that not caring just comes with time. Once you accept that this family isn't very light-knit or warm, I think you'll feel a little better. Or at least that's how I dealt with it, Jacelyn said. Yeah, Dusk repeated. It was definitely some of the good food for the thought that she would think deeper at this point. Thanks for talking with me. It means a lot. Of course, Jacelyn smiled. You could always use a boost of confidence. Honestly, one of the things I love you about the most is how confident and unashamed you are of being yourself. But you don't seem to that way today. I never seen you down like this." In processing Jocelyn's comment, Dusk realized that her cousin was more right than she ever knew, and Dusk had been feeling less confident than usual lately. Ever since they had returned to Oakhaven from the now non-existent tour, she had loved meeting new friends over the past week. But when she turned over her mind back to the music career, she felt like a band was completely out of her former glory as they were pumping things out and becoming popular. It had taken them over a month to come up with the concept for a stupid music video, and they still haven't even filmed the damn thing yet. It really dinged their self-esteem, which on hindsight is probably what her dad's dumb comments made her go so much today. "Yeah, I'm sorry, it's just, my dad's comments really pissed me off," Dusk sneered. "Plus the band's been kind of a slump lately, so I've been stressed. Sorry that you had to see me in this embarrassing state. Please don't tell anybody," I cried. "I won't tell anybody, and you don't need to apologize," Jocelyn assured. "You're cool, Dusk, and I wish you could see that." Dusk didn't really have a response for that, but she certainly did feel cool lately. Perhaps one of the worst parts of her parents heckling about her occupation was that deep inside, part of Dusk feared that it was true. Taking a month to make a music video and working at a diner was not Dusk's definition of success, and things didn't seem to be changing anytime soon. Dusk realized that she hadn't responded to Jocelyn, so she warmly replied with a "thank you. It means a lot." That she was extremely happy that Jocelyn suggested on this walk, as it had given her the opportunity to let out some of the stupid self-pity and emotions that she was angry with herself for not feeling. Despite that Dusk didn't see Jocelyn that often, she had felt that gaining new appreciation of their relationship after the sympathy and moral support Jocelyn had provided today. The Thanksgiving gathering yesterday didn't last as much after she and Jocelyn returned from their walk. Uncle Jake, Uncle Nick, and Aunt Carmen wanted to return home so they could go to bed early for Black Friday shopping. Wizard Taylor and Grandpa and Grandma had a long drive ahead. They needed to leave, and quite frankly, Dusk was glad that they left, as it also gave her an excuse to leave early. Dusk had taken another walk. When she got home, her mind cleared up a bit, followed by the TV, of watching the light read before bed. It was very odd and empty to have the whole apartment to herself. The girls always spent every night together in the apartment since they moved into the summer, so their first time was ever spent a night alone. Thus try not to think about the grandiose times that Luna and Thorn must have been having with their families. As Friday came, Dusk decided to have another leisurely morning, which was quite helpful for the unwinding. She had read the local newspaper and watched some television for the entirety of the morning. After she finished, she showered and slowly got ready for the morning. Once it had got to be lunchtime, Dusk realized that she almost had too much free time on her hands, to the point where she didn't really know what to do with herself. Her mind then turned to the fact that Dawn was working at the bookstore today. Perhaps she would want to visit her at her work to take her mind off how overwhelming she had felt from the Black Friday rush. Besides, it wasn't like there was anything else to frickin' do. Dusk drove the soccer mom minivan over to Oakhaven Books. The lot surprisingly didn't look too full, and there were a mere 7 cars, including hers, parked in the lot. It seemed extremely quiet considering it was Black Friday, but Dusk was quite frankly relieved. She loved Black Friday and never understood why anybody would want to mob the store just to get some dumb new TV for $50 cheaper than it would usually have been. Then again, she wasn't practically materialistic like the rest of the world should be. When Dusk entered the store, she saw a small group of older folks gathered around an elderly man in the coffee shop area. Large posters reading the title of the elderly man's book, The Farm That Built Me, by John MacDonald, were all plastered around the coffee shop. The small audience was intently listening to the man spoke. "Well, I knew I had to keep on running the farm despite the best heifer dying. I was so frustrated that I needed to take my mind off of some death row on that cow, which I never bothered to name. so I took a shower and thought about it. However, that didn't give me enough time to think, so I went out for a Sunday drive and thought some more. That's when I realized I could buy a new cow at the farmer's market, so that's what I did. And I got a beautiful new cow, only my dollar more than the other one. Anyway, that sums up in 1969, so I moved on to 1970. 1970 was a harsh winter, but a short one. So that year I planted my crops in April instead of May. I must say the crops did quite well, but I didn't think of anything else in that note that year. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, I was going to tell you all about 1971. Man, what a rousing year that was. Oh God, he's just been going on like this for a half an hour, someone whispered behind Dusk. Quickly realized that voice belonged to Dawn. Yeah, it seems like it's a small crowd, Dusk said. Yeah, it is, Dawn agreed. Just seems like the whole dump to be this quiet, even on during the Black Friday event.